Hey everyone, Stingley here. Welcome back to part 2 of this devlog series in which we are making a real-time strategy game for the Ukraine Winter Jam. So this is where we're at so far. We have some units that you can select. Enemies will spawn up here somewhere. They will attack each other, and the sort of AI systems work fairly well. When an enemy detects a player character, they'll walk towards him and attack. These spawn outside of the town hall based on the population, and you can build new buildings in order to increase your population. Food and gold increase and decrease based on your population, and when there is not enough food, then there's a percentage chance that the units that you control will start taking damage. So there's a little less than 3 weeks left in this jam. I thought it might be a good idea to try and organise my thoughts a little bit. I've not populated the done part of my list, even though I've done obviously all the stuff I've just shown you. But what we've now got are some cards that I currently have in progress. I've got cards that I want to be working on next, and then there's an absolute boatload of stuff that is still left to do. So let's crack on with it. We now have villagers, and the villager in the game will actually build buildings that are not constructed fully. So when I place a house now, my villager will move up to it and actually build the building, and now it's not until the building is actually fully built will the population increase. I've added some artwork into the game, so I have a little warrior dude, and as well as obviously the villager character, and I've changed the selection graphic so that it uses this shader material. The only problem with it at the moment is it's linked. So as you can see, I'm selecting this character up here, but it's linking the two things together. When I move them, it obviously they're not actually linked, so I've got to fix that. But yeah, that's a thing. So I've also done some work with the camera, adding in a pan and zoom, and the selection rectangle all works exactly as you would hope it does, which was actually incredibly difficult to do. But yeah, that's sorted out now. So yeah, fairly good progress. I'm quite pleased so far. I've added a cleric and a knight character into the game, and I've got to say I'm really enjoying working with the Behave plugin. I managed to make the cleric AI in about 5 minutes, because it's very similar to the way that the villager works, insofar as it looks for a target, in this case a player unit, and it walks over to that player unit and it heals the player unit, and it's just so simple. So here you can see my my knight and my cleric. You'll see that when the knight gets damaged, the cleric will wander over and start healing him. The only thing that's not really working properly is the fact that I obviously want the cleric to do that from a distance. I don't want them to be up close and personal and getting into the fray with all of the enemies. But it works really well. I can literally just leave them completely deselected, and in theory, the next enemy assault, look at that. Isn't that brilliant? So my cleric is working. Now this will be interesting. Will it heal himself? Yeah, the cleric also heals themselves. I don't actually think I want the cleric to heal themselves, but I can fix that. It's a couple of days later. I've not had a tremendous amount of time to actually work on the game. I fixed the issue with the unit selection. That was pretty straightforward, and I've also stopped the cleric from healing himself. I have added a woodcutter building and a tree, as you can see here, into the game. So now my woodcutter will sit down here, and there's a sort of a circle of influence, if you like. And if there are any trees inside the circle, then the woodcutters will go out and fell those trees, and the wood will increase. This actually works perfectly, but I'm actually stuck on the next part of the situation, which is getting it so that villagers can be housed within buildings. I'm a bit stuck on it at the moment. But basically the code is actually already written so that when a villager enters the woodcutter building, they will become a woodcutter and start producing wood. That all works fairly well. I just can't get the villagers to actually go into the buildings yet. Okay, this is what I've got for housing units within buildings. So you can see here I've now got a building input event. It detects whether the right mouse button has been clicked, and if that is the case, it's going to loop over the selected units which I've put into my game global singleton, and for each one of those units it's going to try and house that unit. Up here is the house function, takes the player unit and it checks to see if it can house the unit. If it can, it increments the number of units housed, it will increment the food cost of the building, and it will basically remove the unit from the playing field. My can house method checks a few different bits and bobs. First of all, you can't house units in a building that has not been built. You can't house units in a building that doesn't have a houseable unit, and you can't house units in a building that is full. That's that one there. And then the last one checks to see whether or not the houseable unit path is the same as the unit's file name. And what this is basically doing is it is allowing me to define which units can be housed in which buildings. So you can see here in my building item resource, I have this houseable unit packed scene now, and this is that variable that it picks up on. So when I'm looking at my woodcutter building item, I now have this houseable unit packed scene, and you can see here I've got it set that it will only accept the player villager scene, which is the little villager dudes that run around, and it can only take 2 of those. So here we are back in game. You can see I've got my woodcutter lodge here, and it's fully built now. So when I have a villager selected and I right click on it, that villager disappears and I'm now producing wood. The amount of gold I'm producing is still accounting for that population, and also my food is still decreasing as you would expect. If I select units that can't go into the building, they just basically walk up to it as they would do normally. They can't actually go in. And if I were to select a unit that can and a unit that can't, the unit that can immediately disappears and the unit that can't walks up and just messes about. So the wood is now being produced at a rate of 2 units of wood per population that's inside the house. So yeah, it's kind of working. Obviously it would be better if the units actually walked up to the building and then they went into it, and I also need to create a woodcutter NPC effectively that will come out and start chopping at the trees and all that sort of good stuff, but this sort of basic premise is now in place. I thought it'd be a good idea to try and fix my attack distance issue. Basically what I want to be able to do is I want the unit to stop moving when it reaches the right distance away from its target. You'd think that would be easy, right? But I've spent the last 2 hours trying to get this working, and the problem lies in the way that I've got my artificial intelligence and my player controlled stuff interact with each other. I've actually gone back and basically rewritten all of the movement logic. So gone is all of the steering stuff, and it's now very, very simple. It moves towards the direction that the agent specifies. This works to a degree. If I don't have this block in here though, the character just goes completely crazy. But it has a bit of a negative side effect in the fact that now none of the artificial intelligence works at all. Here we are back in the game, and as you can see I have my little dude. I right click, he moves. This is fine. If I now build my house, he doesn't move towards it, which was fine. He didn't do that before anyway. But if I now just trigger what was originally working, he just completely ignores the fact that there's a house there to be built. Now, you'd think that would be something to do with the AI part, right? But the AI is reporting that it's detecting the house and it's in fact moving the player towards that house, but it isn't. And it's really, really infuriating. You can see down here in my output, it's spamming the walking to building print statement. And that print statement is in this block of code up here. There. Now, it's obviously triggering this action, the walk to closest building. And the walk to closest building is doing all of this logic, which is perfectly fine. And when it gets down to here, whereby it's supposed to set the actor to move to that location, it just isn't doing it. And I cannot work out why. I must be doing something wrong. It's so frustrating. 2 hours. Oh my god, I am such an idiot. I am so stupid. It's like, what, a few minutes later and it's just completely dawned on me what's going on. I have these two functions. The first one is the function that I'm calling from my AI, which is taking a location, and it sets that location to be the target location. Target location has a setter getter on it, which is this thing down here, which takes that target location and it sets it on the agent. Pretty obvious, yeah? Pretty straightforward. The problem with it is the fact that if I call this function, which changes the target location, does not trigger the set get because I haven't typed self dot. I do that and it works. 2 hours. Oh my god. It is many hours later. I've had some success and some failure. I think I've basically completely broken my AI system now. It's just balked beyond all recognition. My units will actually now repair things from range. Well, I say they will. This one's just got stuck up here on a building that shouldn't have even been damaged. So, I don't know. These guys. Okay, so they attack that. That's fine. Look, and they're moving across. And then they get stuck because they're not attacking that one. He's got a board. Now we're trying to fix that. I'd imagine he'll probably try and fix it again. Yes, he's stuck. He's stuck on that one. It's just completely broken. It's 10 past 1. I'm literally a few seconds away from just reverting the entire night's progress, and I'm quite demoralised about it, if I'm honest. When it works, it's superb. You know, the cleric will actually heal the knight from range, and you know the builder will build from range. See if I can get it to do that. So I build this house, and I get the builder. He will walk up, and he will build it. Look, and it's great. Everything works correctly. Kind of, and I've fixed the problem with it not building other buildings as well. So he'll do that and he'll go and build my woodcutter's place, which is great. But I just see, look, my healer is now healing him from range, which is great, but my knight isn't attacking, and then the enemies attack and then they get stuck, and then I'm going to bed.